My name is Nadia Okafor. I am 36 years old, and I have a folder. Not a digital folder, not a cloud backup. A physical 3-ring binder. Forest green, 2 inches thick. Sitting in the bottom drawer of my home office desk, between my tax returns and our company's first incorporation papers. It has 31 items inside, each one labeled, each one dated, each one filed in the order it arrived, or in the order it was ignored, or in the order it was returned to sender, with a stamp so red it looked like an accusation. 7 years of documentation. They showed up the week Emeka's company crossed $10 million in revenue. Not before. Not during the years we ate rice and beans for dinner 3 nights a week because the business couldn't yet pay us a real salary. Not during the year Emeka worked from a folding table in our spare bedroom, with a space heater and a laptop that crashed twice a day. Not when our son Tobias was born. And I sent the birth announcement to an address in Marietta, Georgia, that received it and returned it without opening the envelope. They showed up when the number changed. And what they did not know, what none of them knew, was that I had been keeping records since the very first thing they ever sent back. Before we go any further, if you are new here, please take a second to like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And drop a comment telling me where you are watching from and what time it is there. I read every single one. Now let me take you back to the beginning. My name before I married was Nadia Reyes. I grew up in Decatur, Illinois. Population just under 17,000. 1 Main Street. 2 high schools. A grain elevator you could see from every direction. And the kind of town where everyone knows your business before you do. My father, Hector, ran a small engine repair shop on Persimmon Road for 22 years. Same blue coveralls. Same grease under his fingernails. Same quiet nod when he came home at 6:15 every evening. Smelling like motor oil and effort. My mother, Carmen, worked the front desk at the county health department and ran our household the way she ran everything else. With a legal pad, a blue pen, and a list of items that never quite got shorter. I was the oldest of 3. I did the dishes without being asked. I tutored my brothers in algebra. I graduated second in my class and took a partial scholarship to the University of Illinois. Because the full ride went to someone whose parents had hired a consultant to write her essays. I do not say this with bitterness. I say it because you need to understand what kind of woman I was. Before Emeka Okafor sat down next to me in a corporate finance seminar in the fall of my junior year and changed the entire direction of my life. He was 24, Nigerian American, born in Lagos, raised in Atlanta from the age of 8. His father, Chibundo, had come to the United States in the 90s with an engineering degree from the University of Lagos and built a civil contracting business from scratch over 30 years. His mother, Adiez, was a pharmacist, precise and warm. The kind of woman who remembered your birthday and your food allergies and the name of your childhood dog. Emeka was finishing his MBA. He had a leather notebook he carried everywhere and wrote it with a particular green pen he kept clipped to the inside cover. He was methodical, thoughtful. The kind of man who read the whole contract before he signed it and asked the one question everyone else in the room was too proud to ask. Our first conversation lasted 4 hours. We sat in the campus coffee shop until they wiped down the tables around us, stacked the chairs, and we moved the conversation to the sidewalk outside and kept going. He told me he wanted to build something, a logistics platform, a way for mid-sized manufacturers to manage supply chain compliance without paying enterprise software prices. He had a whiteboard sketch of it on a folded piece of paper in his notebook. He showed it to me under the streetlight and explained it with the focused patience of someone who had been explaining it to himself for months and was finally saying it out loud to another person. I told him the idea had legs, but the pricing model needed work. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. A real laugh. Not a polished one. The kind that happens before you can stop it. We dated for 2 years before he told his family about me. I understand now why he waited. At the time, I told myself it was pace. That he was private. That introducing someone to family was a serious step. And Emika did not take serious steps lightly. What I did not fully understand then was that his family, specifically his father's side, had a particular idea of who Emika Okafor would marry. Someone from Lagos, or at least from the Nigerian diaspora community in Atlanta. Someone whose family name carried a specific weight. Someone whose background mapped onto theirs in ways that felt safe, and legible, and correct. I was none of those things. I was Nadia Reyes from Decatur, Illinois. Half Mexican, half white. Raised Catholic. Graduated second in my class, and entirely outside the frame they had built. The first time I met Chibundo and Adiezy was at a dinner in their home in Marietta. A beautiful home, large and quiet, with framed family photos in the hallway and a dining table that seated 12. Adiezy's cooked jollof rice and fried plantains and a chicken stew that made me close my eyes after the first bite. She was gracious. She asked about my family, my studies, my plans. Chibundo shook my hand once, asked what my father did, and then spent the rest of the evening talking to Emika about the business plan. As if I were a piece of furniture that had been placed in the room without explanation. I told myself it was first meeting nerves. Cultural difference. They just needed time. Emeka's cousin Adana was the honest one. At the end of the evening, while we were washing dishes, she leaned close and said very quietly, "They are not going to make this easy for you. You know that, right?" I said I did not know that. Not yet. She nodded slowly. "Then you will learn it," she said. "Just make sure when you do, you are not surprised." I was not yet. But I would be. Emika proposed on a Thursday evening in our apartment. No restaurant. No audience. He made dinner, set the table with actual cloth napkins. And after we ate, he placed a ring box on the table between us and said, "I have thought about every version of my future. And you are in all of them. Will you marry me?" I said yes before he finished the sentence. I called my mother from the kitchen while Emika cleaned up. She cried immediately, the warm, uncomplicated kind of crying that means only happiness. My father got on the line and asked if Emika was a good man. I said yes. He said that was all that mattered. And then asked if we wanted him to fly out. Then I called Adiezy. The line rang 4 times. She picked up on the 5th. I told her. The silence lasted 6 seconds. I counted. "I see," she said. And then, "I will need to speak with Chibundo. Not congratulations. Not welcome to the family. Not to tell me about the ring. I see." I held the phone after she hung up and looked at Emika across the kitchen. And he looked back at me, and neither of us said what we were both thinking. 3 days later, a letter arrived. Not an email. A letter. Handwritten. On heavy cream stationery. With an Atlanta postmark. Chibundo's handwriting, precise and slanted. 4 paragraphs. I've kept it. It is the first item in the folder. Item 1. Tabbed. Dated. The words still perfectly legible after 7 years. The last paragraph said this. "Emika is the future of this family. The decisions he makes now will define what we build for generations. We have expectations for his path that we have held since he was a child. This union does not align with those expectations. We ask you, respectfully and firmly, to consider whether you are truly prepared for what you would be asking him to sacrifice." No signature. Just the family name printed at the bottom. He was not asking her to sacrifice.
He was asking me to disappear. I read the letter 3 times, folded it, put it in a manila envelope. I did not know yet why I was keeping it. Something in me, the part that had always filed receipts and dated documents and kept records of things that mattered, told me to hold on. I held on. We got married at the Champaign County Courthouse on a Saturday in April. 19 guests, all friends. Most of them ours together. My parents flew in from Decatur. My brothers wore ties they clearly hated and stood up straight the whole ceremony anyway. My mother cried again. The same warm kind. Arias did not come. Chibundo did not come. Not one member of the Okafor family attended. There was no aisle. There was a hallway with white walls and a judge who mispronounced Emeka's last name twice and apologized both times. We had a reception at a Thai restaurant 3 blocks away, where we pushed 4 tables together. And my brother gave a toast that was mostly jokes and ended with something so genuinely kind that Emeka had to look at the ceiling for a moment. My dress cost $210 from a boutique on Green Street. Ivory, simple, fit exactly right. Emeka wore a charcoal suit he had bought for a conference presentation 6 months earlier. We looked like 2 people who had just done the most important thing of their lives. Because we had, that night, back at the apartment. I sat on the edge of the bed with the bouquet on the nightstand. Grocery store flowers. $11. And I opened the manila envelope and added a second item. Wedding photo. Mailed to Marietta, Georgia. 2 days after the ceremony. It came back 11 days later, unopened. Returned to sender. I stared at the red stamp for a long time. Then I opened my desk drawer and found a green 3-ring binder. Bought for a project that never happened. I labeled the spine with a strip of masking tape. Okafor file. I put the letter inside. I put the returned wedding photo inside. I labeled each one with a red pen. Item 1. Item 2. Date sent. Date returned. I was not building a case. I was not planning anything. I was doing what I had always done. Keeping records. Because I was a woman who had always known that documentation is not paranoia. It is preparation. Year 1 was the quietest kind of hard. I called Adaezy twice. Both times, voicemail. I left messages that I had rehearsed beforehand. Careful and warm and brief. She did not call back. I sent a Christmas card to Marietta. It came back in 8 days. Item 3. I sent a birthday card to Chibundo in February. Came back in 6. Item 4. Emeka's younger sister, Chisom, texted me once. February. 11 words. My parents are very traditional. Please do not take it personally. 11 words. 6 months of silence. Please do not take it personally. I screenshotted the text, printed it, filed it. Item 5. Not because it was cruel. Because it was a document, and I had a binder. And I was a woman who filed documents. Emeka called his parents every Sunday. I could hear the calls from the kitchen, his voice going careful and measured the way it does when he is managing something difficult. He never told me what was said. I never asked. But I watched his face when he came back to the table. And I learned to read the particular stillness that meant the call had not gone well. He started the company that spring. Not recklessly. He had a plan. 18 months in the making. A compliance platform for mid-market manufacturers. Exactly the idea he had shown me on a folded piece of paper under a streetlight 3 years earlier. He set up a desk in our second bedroom. 2 monitors. A whiteboard from the office supply store. A cable box he used as a monitor stand. Because we could not yet justify a real one. I was working as a financial analyst at a regional firm downtown. I came home every evening, made dinner, and then sat next to him at that desk until 10 or 11, reviewing pricing models and cash flow projections. I built the financial architecture. He built the product. Neither of us slept enough. Both of us knew exactly what we were doing and why. The company's name was ClearPath Logistics Solutions. First customer, March of year 2. 4 customers by June. 8 by September. Year 2. Item count reached 11. 2 more returned birthday cards. 1 Christmas card. A birth announcement. Because Tobias arrived on a Tuesday in October. 6 pounds 9 ounces. Dark hair. Emeka's eyes. My nose. The loudest cry either of us had ever heard in our lives. I had sent the ultrasound photos to Marietta 5 months earlier. Returned. Item 9. I sent the birth announcement. A card with a photo. Tobias 1 hour old. Emeka's hand covering almost his entire back. Came back in 9 days. Item 10. My mother flew in and stayed 3 weeks. She cooked. She cleaned. She rocked Tobias at 2 in the morning while I slept in 40-minute increments. She sang him in Spanish, low and steady, and he always stopped crying when she started. That was what a grandmother looked like. I added item 11 to the binder the night my mother flew home. Birth announcement returned. Date. Red pen. I did not cry when I filed it. I had already cried. I was done crying about the Okafor family by item 7. What I had instead was something cleaner, a colder, and more useful. A record. By year 3. ClearPath had 14 employees in a real office in the Champaign Tech Corridor. Small. Functional. A conference room with a glass wall and a whiteboard that actually stayed clean because we hired someone to clean it. Emeka was working 60-hour weeks. I was working 40 at my firm and 20 more on ClearPath's books. Because I was now the company's unofficial CFO and we could not yet afford to make it official. The silence from Marietta had become a fact of life. Like weather. Some weeks I noticed it. Most weeks I did not. What I noticed more was the binder getting heavier. Year 3 brought items 12 through 17. A returned card. 2 unanswered calls, logged with dates and durations. A Facebook post from Chisholm. A family photo from what appeared to be a holiday gathering. Chibundo and Etta Izzy and Chisholm and her husband and 2 cousins I had never met. Captioned. Our whole world. Every face in the photo. Not Emeka. Not Tobias. Not me. I printed the screenshot. Filed it. Item 15. Emeka saw the binder once that year. He came into the office while I was updating the tabs and stopped in the doorway. What is that? He asked. I told him the truth. It is a record. Every returned card. Every unanswered call. Every piece of documentation that your family has chosen to erase us. If Tobias ever asks someday why he does not have grandparents on your side, I want him to have facts. Not my version. Not their version. The receipts. Emeka stood in the doorway for a long moment. Then he said, okay, and went back to his desk. He is an engineer. Engineers keep build logs. He understood. Year 4. ClearPath landed its first enterprise contract, a mid-sized auto parts manufacturer in Indiana. 12-month deal. Significant enough that we finally put my name on the company paperwork as CFO. It was the first time I was officially both things, his wife and his financial officer. Equal weight on both. We bought a house. Craftsman in a campus town neighborhood. 3 bedrooms. Original hardwood floors. A backyard with an oak tree Tobias immediately claimed as his. I remember signing the mortgage papers and thinking, nobody gave us this. We built it. That year, something shifted in Marietta. Chisholm texted Emeka in November. Not me. Emeka. She asked how the company was going. He mentioned the new contract. She asked the dollar amount. He told her. She did not reply for 3 days, and then sent back a single line. Mom has been asking about you. Emeka showed me the text. I read it twice. Mom has been asking about you. Not about Tobias, not about me. About the company. I did not add it to the binder. It was not a document. but I wrote it on a post-it note and stuck it to the inside cover. October, year 4. The math is changing. They're paying attention. Year 5. ClearPath secured a Series A $4.2 million from a venture firm in Chicago. The post-money valuation landed at $23 million. I remember the phone call. Yumiko was making Tobias's lunch. His phone rang. He listened, nodded once, hung up, turned to me. They said yes. I did the math on a notepad before the sandwich was finished. 23 million valuation. Yumika and I held 26%. On paper. The number had more zeros than anything in either of our families had ever held. TechCrunch ran a paragraph. 2 Midwest fintech newsletters picked it up. Modest coverage. Industry noise. Nobody in Decatur or Marietta would have seen it, except somebody did. 3 weeks after the TechCrunch piece, a mutual friend from our university days texted me, "Hey, kind of random, but I ran into Chisholm at a conference last week. She mentioned your husband's company. She was asking a lot of questions. Revenue, headcount, whether you had raised more money. Thought you should know." I read the text 3 times. Chisholm had not texted me once in 5 years. She had not acknowledged Tobias's birth. She had not responded to a single card I had ever sent. But she was asking a mutual friend about our revenue at a conference in Chicago. I added a new tab to the binder. Year 5. Item 22. Chisholm. Inquiry via third party. Date. Source. Red pen. Year 6. ClearPath reached 40 employees. We opened a second office in Indianapolis. A regional magazine put Emeka on the cover of their tech issue. The headline read, "The Quiet Builder." Forbes ran a small item in their logistics tech roundup. 2 sentences. Our company name. Emeka's name. 3 days after the Forbes item. My LinkedIn was viewed 7 times from Atlanta, Georgia. Private account. No name visible. But the location was right there. Atlanta, Georgia. The week after that. Ada E. called Amika's cell phone on a Sunday morning, for the first time in 6 years. He came into the kitchen where I was making breakfast, and held up the screen so I could see the name. Then he answered it on speaker. Her voice was the same. Warm. Precise. Carefully constructed. She said she had been thinking about him. She said she missed him. She said she hoped the business was going well. She said she had seen something online. And was so proud. Proud. 6 years. 22 items. A return birth announcement. A child she had never held. And now she was proud. Amika's face was still. He answered in short, careful sentences. He did not tell her about the Series A. He did not tell her the valuation. He said the business was growing, and that we were well, and that Tobias was 4 years old now and starting to read. She did not ask about Tobias. When he hung up, Amika set the phone on the counter and looked at the wall for a moment. She is recalculating, he said. It was the most precise thing either of us could have said. The group text arrived on a Wednesday. It came from Chisholm, forwarded to me by accident. She had been adding numbers to a thread and caught mine in the autocomplete. She removed me within 4 minutes, but in those 4 minutes, I had already read it. 3 days of messages. The Okafor family thread. Chibundo, Adeyizi, Chisholm, an uncle I had never met. Chisholm had been tracking ClearPath's funding filings through public databases. She had the Series A number. She had estimated our equity stake. She had run a projection based on comparable logistics software exits. Her number was conservative, and it still made me sit down. Ada Ez's message to the thread read, "How do we approach this? He will not respond to me the way he used to. We need Nadia. Chibunda. What does she want? What would make her open the door? Chisholm. She is a numbers person. She responds to structure. We need to come with something real, not just family. Something she can see the value of. Ada Z. I should go in person. A letter first, then in person. I know how to talk to her if I prepare correctly. Chibundo. Make it about Tobias. She will not refuse if it is about the boy. I sat in my car in the parking lot of Tobias' school and read the thread twice. Through the windshield, I could see Tobias on the playground, chasing another child around a structure shaped like a ship. My hands were not shaking. I want to be clear about that. My hands were completely steady, because I had known this was coming. Since year 4 when Chisholm asked about our revenue at a conference. Since year 5 when 7 views came from Atlanta after the Forbes item. Since the Sunday morning phone call where Anna Izzy said she was proud of a company she had ignored for 6 years. While ignoring the child that company had helped us build a life around, I drove home, printed the screenshot, opened the binder. Item 28. Family group thread. Financial reconnaissance confirmed. Strategy discussion documented. Red pen. Dated. Then I closed the binder, put it back in the bottom drawer, and made Tobias a grilled cheese for lunch. If someone came back into your life only after the numbers changed, I need you to drop that in the comments right now. Tell me your version of this, because I think more of us are carrying this than we ever say out loud. And if you are watching this on the Family Ledger for the first time, subscribe. This is what we do here. We tell the truth. We keep the receipts, and we let the documentation speak. Now, back to the story. The letter from Nadia Izzy arrived 12 days later, handwritten, cream stationery, the same kind Shabundo had used 7 years earlier. She had clearly drafted it multiple times, no cross-outs, no corrections. The penmanship of a woman who had rehearsed this. 4 paragraphs. The word sorry did not appear once. What appeared instead was a careful architecture of softened language. Time passes. Families evolve. We were not ready then in ways we understand better now. We hope the distance between us can become something smaller. There are things that belong together that have been kept apart too long. 61 words in the final paragraph. I counted. Not one of them was an apology. Not one of them acknowledged the returned wedding photo. The returned birth announcement. The 7 years of birthday cards that came back with red stamps. The grandchild they had never once asked to hold. I read the letter twice, folded it, added it to the binder. Item 29. First written contact from Nadia Izzy in 7 years. 61 words. 0 apology. Red pen. Dated. Then I called a family attorney named Grace. Not to file anything. To understand our position. What were our rights if they arrived? What protections existed for our assets? For Tobias. Grace was 50-something. Direct. No filler. She walked me through it in 20 minutes. No legal standing on their part. Our trusts were structured correctly. Grandparent visitation rights required an existing relationship, of which there was none. 7 years of documented estrangement, she said, makes any claim more than laughable. It makes it invisible. I thanked her. She asked if I had documentation of the estrangement. I told her I had a folder. She asked, how thorough? 29 items, I said. 7 years. Every returned card. Every ignored voicemail. Every screenshot. Dated, labeled, sourced. A pause on her end. Then she said, you do not need me for this. You needed me for the legal structure, which is already done. What you are describing is not a legal confrontation. It is a personal one. And for that, you already have everything you need. ClearPath crossed $10 million in annual revenue on Thursday in March. Emika called me from the office at 3 in the afternoon. I could hear the team in the background. Someone had apparently brought in a cake. His voice was doing the particular thing it does when he is trying not to sound as moved as he actually is. We hit it, he said. I sat at my desk and looked at the framed photo next to my monitor. The 4 of us at Lake Michigan last summer. Tobias on Emeka's shoulders. My parents flanking us. Everyone squinting into the wind. My mother's hand on my arm. My father's hand on Emeka's shoulder. That was the family that had shown up. That was the family that had never needed a number to change. Before they did. By the following Monday, the LinkedIn views from Atlanta had resumed. 7 in 3 days. Same private account. Same location signature. By Wednesday. Chisholm had sent Emeka a direct message on Instagram. A photo of herself at a rooftop event in Atlanta. Casual. Unposed. The kind of photo that takes 3 tries to look effortless. The message to him read, Thinking about you. Hope everything is amazing. Would love to catch up soon. Emeka showed it to me without comment. I had one comment. She is scouting, I said. He nodded. He already knew. Adaeze arrived on a Tuesday. I knew she was coming because our mutual friend Tess had texted me the Thursday before. She had heard through the Atlanta Nigerian community, through someone who attended the same church as Adaeze. She is telling people she is going to see her son. She booked a flight. She is packing something specific. A folder of her own, someone said. I had known since the group thread. Since the LinkedIn views, since the carefully constructed letter with its 61 words and 0 apologies, I had 1 week to decide what I was going to do. What I did was nothing dramatic. No lawyers. No confrontation plan. No rehearsed speech. I simply went to the bottom drawer of my desk, took out the binder, set it on top of the desk, and left it there all week. Open. Tabs visible. Red pen labels showing through the clear cover. 29 items. 7 years. The complete physical record of every door they had closed. I wanted to be sure I knew exactly what was in it before she arrived. She rang the doorbell at 11:14 on a Tuesday morning. I knew the exact time, because I was standing at the kitchen window when the car service pulled up, and I watched her step out. She was older. More silver at her temples, dressed carefully. A structured blazer. The kind of effort that signals this is not casual. She stood on the front path for 30 seconds, looking at the house the way you look at a problem you have been solving in your head and are now seeing in 3 dimensions for the first time. The doorbell rang. I opened the door. We looked at each other across the threshold. 7 years in the space between us. Nadia. Her voice was composed, warm, even. The warmth of a woman who had prepared. Adaeze. Mine was level. May I come in? I stepped back and let her in. I did not lead her to the living room. I led her to the kitchen. The kitchen has a table and good light, and the wall where Tobias's drawings are taped up in a row, and a photo of my parents from last Christmas stuck to the fridge with a magnet he picked out himself. The kitchen is where truth lives in this house. She sat at the table. I set 2 glasses of water down. No tea. No coffee. Coffee is for guests who are staying. She looked around the kitchen with the careful attention of someone cataloging. Her eyes moved to the photos on the fridge. My parents. Tobias's drawings. Nothing from Marietta. Because there was nothing for Marietta to put up, she reached into the structured bag she had carried in and produced a folder, cream-colored, thick, the kind of folder that has been prepared. She set it on the table and opened it with the controlled deliberation of a woman who has rehearsed this moment. Inside, a document, handwritten in typed sections, a proposed arrangement. She began to read. A contribution to Tobias's education fund, she said. We would like to establish a relationship with our grandson and believe a formal commitment would demonstrate our seriousness. She named a number. Then a second item, a request for regular video calls with Tobias. A third. Holiday visits, structured. Whatever Emeka and I determined was appropriate. A fourth. A formal acknowledgement from us that the estrangement was behind us. A clean start. She folded the document, placed her hands flat on the table, looked at me. This is what family looks like when it tries to repair itself, she said. We are trying, Nadia. I looked at the document on the table for a long moment. Then I stood up and walked to my office. The bottom drawer was exactly where it always was. I pulled the binder out, all 2 inches and 7 years of it. And I carried it back to the kitchen and set it on the table next to her folder. 2 documents. Hers. A proposal. Mine. A record. She looked at the binder, at the red pen tabs visible through the clear cover, at the thickness of it. What is that? She asked. You brought a folder, I said. Sat down and placed my hands flat on the table, mirroring her exactly. I brought one too. She stared at it. I opened to tab 1. Year 1, I said. Item 1. A letter from Chibundo, dated 4 months before our wedding, asking me to consider whether I was prepared for what I would be asking Emeka to sacrifice. I placed it on the table. Item 2. Our wedding photo. Mailed to Marietta on April 19th. Returned unopened on April 30th. Returned to sender stamp. I placed it next to the first. Item 3. A Christmas card. Mailed December 8th. Returned December 16th. I kept going. I did not raise my voice. I did not perform emotion. I read each item the way I read quarterly reports to the board. Factual. Sequential. Complete. IDS's composure began to shift around item 6. The first returned birthday card I had ever sent to Chibundo. Something moved behind her eyes. Not guilt. Not yet. Recognition. The specific recognition of a person who is seeing their own choices assembled into evidence. For the first time. By item 10. The returned birth announcement. Her hands had moved from the table to her lap. These are the things I sent your family, I said. Every single one came back. Nadia, I am not finished. I moved to tab 3. The Facebook screenshot. Chisum's caption. Our whole world. Every face. Not Amika. Not Tobias. Not me. Your daughter posted this in year 3. Our whole world. Our son was 2 years old. He had never met you. He did not exist in this photo. Adias pressed her fingers to her mouth. I moved to the final tab. The printed screenshot of the group thread. This arrived by accident 7 weeks ago, I said. Chisum added me to the family thread and removed me 4 minutes later. In those 4 minutes, I read this. I read Chisum's message aloud. She is a numbers person. She responds to structure. We need to come with something real. I read Jabundo's. Make it about Tobias. She will not refuse if it is about the boy. I read Adaez's own words back to her. I should go in person. I know how to talk to her if I prepare correctly. The kitchen was very quiet. I set the printed thread on the table. You have been tracking our company's revenue since the Series A, I said. You have been building a strategy for 6 months, and when you decided the number was large enough, you flew here with a folder. Adaez's jaw was tight. Her eyes were wet, but the tears had not fallen. She was fighting them the way people fight tears when they know crying will look like manipulation. That is not, she started. Your folder has a proposal, I said. My folder has 7 years. I placed her document next to my binder on the table. 2 objects. Same surface. Different weight. You did not come here because you missed your son, I said. You did not come because you missed the grandson you have never held. You came because the number changed. You do not understand the pressure we were under. I understand exactly the pressure you were under, I said. Chibundo made it clear in the letter he sent before our wedding. I have it. Item 1. I've read it many times. She had nothing for that. I could see her cycling through the responses she had prepared. The warmth. The appeal to tradition. The suggestion that I did not understand what family meant in the Okafor context. None of it fit now. The binder had taken all the space in the room, and Mika built this company, I said. I built the financial architecture that kept it alive in the years it could not keep itself alive. We built it on a folding table in a spare bedroom. While you returned our wedding photo, we built it eating rice and beans 3 nights a week, while Chibundo wrote letters about the expectations you had held since Amika was a child. We built it. And we built a family. And we built a life. And not one item in that binder. Not one. Represents a moment when you participated in any of it? I closed the binder. The rings clicked shut. So here is what I will tell you, I said. I will not sign your proposal, not because the numbers on it are wrong, because the moment I sign it, you will believe the reconciliation was your idea. You will go back to Atlanta and tell Chibundo and Chisum that you handled it, that the relationship was restored because you came with a plan, and Tobias will grow up believing his grandparents came back because they loved him. I picked up her folder, held it out. They came back because we crossed 10 million. She did not take the folder. It hung in the air between us. If you want to know your grandson, I said, that starts with an apology, not to me, to him. When he is old enough to understand what was kept from him, and it does not start today. It starts when you are ready to mean it. Not when the number is right, when you are. Ada E stood slowly. Her chair scraped the tile. She looked at the binder one more time. Then at me. Her mouth opened. and closed. She picked up her folder, picked up her bag, walked to the front door. She stopped once, hand on the doorframe, did not turn around. I watched her shoulders rise and fall, once. Then she walked out. The door closed with a soft click, not a slam, the sound of someone who had come to win something, and was leaving without it, and knew it. I stood in the kitchen for a moment in the quiet. Tobias would be home from school in 4 hours. Emika would be back by 6:30. I would make dinner, and we would eat together at this table, the three of us. And I would tell him what happened in the measured and factual way that I tell him everything. I went to my office, put the binder back in the bottom drawer, closed it. 29 items, 7 years. I did not add a 30th. Not yet. 2 weeks passed. Chisholm texted Emika once. One line. Is everything okay? He showed me. I shook my head once. He did not reply. Shibundo called on a Saturday morning. Emika was in the backyard with Tobias. He saw the name on the screen, looked at me, and answered on speaker. Standing in the kitchen doorway where I could hear. Chibundo's voice was older than I remembered, thinner at the edges. He said, Your mother came home very quiet. Emika said, I know. A long pause. I made errors, Chibundo said. When you were young, I thought I knew what was right for you. I did not know as much as I believed. Emika said nothing. The woman you married, Chibundo said carefully. She is formidable? Yes, Emika said. She is. Another pause. I would like to try, Chibundo said. Not the way your mother tried. Something smaller. A phone call. Monthly, no agenda, just talking. Emika looked at me through the doorway. I held up 2 fingers, 2 conditions. His eyes asked the question. I mouthed the words, apology first, Tobias second. He nodded once. You apologized to Nadia directly, Emika said. Not a letter. A call. You say what you did. And you say you are sorry, and you do not qualify it. And then after that, we talk about Tobias. In that order, silence on the line. Long enough that I thought he might hang up. He did not. All right, he said. I can do that. And call her tomorrow, Emika said. I will let her know you are calling. He hung up. Came into the kitchen. Set the phone on the counter between us. Tomorrow, he said. I heard. I said. We looked at each other for a moment. 7 years of receipts in the bottom drawer. A phone call coming tomorrow. A grandson in the backyard. Who would grow up knowing exactly who showed up, and when, and why? Are you ready? He asked. I thought about the binder, about item 1, about the letter on Cream stationery that had started all of this, about a woman named Ada Izzy who had flown across the country with a proposal and left without a signature. I have been ready for 7 years, I said, and I meant it, in every possible direction. That is my story. 7 years. 29 items. 1 forest green binder. That sat in a bottom drawer long enough to become the most important document I ever kept. Here on the family ledger, this is what we believe. Records matter. Patience is a form of power. And documentation is not bitterness. It is preparation. If this story reminded you of that, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Drop a comment below, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.